Hi, folks. Let's talk about the circus we're all pretending is serious business. We're living in a time where feelings outrank facts, race trumps reason, and the louder someone screams on social media, the more qualified they are to lead. It's the golden age of identity politics, where your resume doesn't need achievements, just hashtags and a victim card. And today's featured performer is Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett, who wants you to know that disagreeing with her might just activate her final form. Self-declared real black woman, as if that somehow ends the debate. This is where we are. Policy replaced by personality and logic dismissed as oppression. So buckle up, because we're about to dive into a highlight reel of the left's greatest hits: emotional blackmail, manufactured outrage, and the total collapse of adult conversation.
I want y'all to know that every day that I walk in those halls, regardless of whatever rhetoric they put out about me, I am a very serious lawmaker. At the same time, if you try me, you will find out. I just want to be clear about that, because I am truly a black woman at the same time.
What you just heard wasn't a policy argument, it was a performance. Representative Jasmine Crockett stood on stage at Al Sharpton's National Action Network and essentially delivered a threat wrapped in identity politics and sprinkled with just enough self-congratulation to qualify as a TED Talk for the perpetually offended. Her message: if you try me, you'll find out. I am a true black woman. Now, let's pause right there. That's not a rebuttal. That's not a policy stance. That's a personality flex masquerading as political substance. So let's talk about what that phrase actually means, because it's doing a lot of heavy lifting while saying absolutely nothing. Try me, you'll find out. Find out what exactly? That disagreement is violence, that accountability is racism, that criticism of an elected official is now somehow an attack on an entire demographic. This is what's called a rhetorical shield, where someone, in this case Jasmine, cloaks herself in identity so any disagreement can be dismissed as bigotry. It's manipulative, and frankly, it's lazy. And then comes the cherry on top. She says, I am truly a black woman, as if that identity alone grants moral authority and immunity from any sort of critique. It's the political version of a magic spell. Say it and poof, all opposition disappears, at least if you're a Democrat. But here's the thing. Being a black woman or any other identity doesn't make your argument valid. Your policies, your votes, your legislative record, those are what matter. But when you don't have a strong record to stand on, you lean on theatrics. So as far as Jasmine Crockett goes, it's all theater, zero results so far. And let's not forget, this is the same Jasmine Crockett who went viral for quipping about her lashes and the law, who spends more time crafting sassy clapbacks for social media than crafting actual legislation. And yet here she is claiming to be a very serious lawmaker. Serious lawmakers don't need to announce it at Sharpton rallies like it's a campaign slogan. They prove it through their work. But that would require actual legislative wins, which, if you look at Crockett's record, are few and far between. And of course, this all took place at the National Action Network, a political grift disguised as a civil rights organization founded by a man whose entire career has been defined by racial division and televised moral grandstanding. The perfect stage for this kind of identity-fueled monologue. It's a safe space for slogans, not solutions. The most troubling part, though, isn't the narcissism or even the empty rhetoric. It's the weaponization of identity to intimidate critics. That's the real message here. She's basically saying, challenge me and I'll accuse you of violating who I am. That's not how democracy works. That's how emotional blackmail works. And when our lawmakers are more interested in delivering spoken word threats than defending their ideas, we've officially traded governance for grievance. So no, Representative Crockett, the issue isn't that people don't understand you, it's that they do. And what they see is someone who uses identity as a shield, outrage as currency, and sound bites as legislation. If that's what it means to be a truly black woman in Congress, then it's time we start expecting better from everyone, no matter their race, gender, or social media following. But it doesn't stop there with Representative Crockett, because her embarrassing moments are always 2 for 1.
But here's the reality. As far as I'm concerned, he's a lot less criminal than the person that's sitting in the White House. Because last time I checked, he doesn't have any criminal convictions. I don't even think he has any outstanding cases versus the guy that still had cases pending when he was sworn in on January 20th and also has 34 felony convictions. So listen, I don't want to hear anything from the Republican Party about how they're trying to keep us safe when their fearless leader is actually the biggest criminal thus far that we have seen, because I haven't seen anybody with a rap sheet that looks like the president's.
So I want to exercise a point of personal privilege right now. I'm going to play a really quick clip for you, Congresswoman, and ask you a question on the other side. Take a watch and listen. My next guest joining me now is Texas State Representative Jasmine Crockett. Representative, so happy to have you here. I know you had a busy day yesterday. Well, Texas State Representative Jasmine Crockett, thank you for being here, and thanks for all of your advocacy. We appreciate it. Okay, that was you and I 3 years ago. That was your first time on the Katie Fang Show. This is the second to the last episode of the show. Congresswoman, I wanted to thank you for always getting up and early and delivering it, but I also want to say thank you for your continuing support for democracy. It's definitely something that you have made your brand, and it's the integrity that you're bringing, and I'm grateful for you always.
What? We'll miss you.
Oh. You can't have me crying at the beginning of a show, Jasmine. Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett, you haven't seen the last of me. Thank you for being here and getting us started today. I always appreciate you. Thank you.
Let's dissect this emotional meltdown disguised as political commentary, because what unfolded on MSDNC between Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett and Katie Fang wasn't journalism. It was a farewell therapy session dressed up as hard-hitting news. Crockett began by declaring that Donald Trump is worse than MS-13 gang members, yes, unironically, then burst into tears after being thanked for supporting democracy. Now, none of that is factual analysis. It's just delusion mixed with dramatics. Let's start with her core argument that Donald Trump is a bigger criminal than MS-13, not a criminal, the biggest criminal. Bigger than a violent transnational gang responsible for machete murders, drug trafficking, and human smuggling. The same MS-13 that the DOJ has classified as a serious national security threat, whose members have literally dismembered people in parks. And Crockett wants you to believe that mean tweets and disputed accounting records somehow eclipse that. It's not just dishonest, it's absolutely obscene. This is a clear case of false equivalence, where gangland murders, people convicted of brutal, violent crimes, are compared to a sitting president whose convictions stem from bookkeeping charges in a politically motivated case. Yes, Donald Trump has 34 convictions from a politically motivated New York State Democrat-run court, all tied to allegedly falsifying business records. But equating that with MS-13's machete murders and cartel-style violence, that's not justice. It's pure, unadulterated propaganda. Crockett conflates white-collar convictions under appeal with decades of blood-soaked criminal terror to score emotional points, not to present facts. And then she pivots to moral outrage, accusing Republicans of hypocrisy for wanting public safety while electing a man with a rap sheet, ignoring that those very convictions are under legal challenge and stem from a DA with a clear political vendetta. It's not just disingenuous, it's a deliberate distortion designed to shut down conversation with shock value. And here's what she conveniently leaves out. Joe Biden had his own pile of scandals. He mishandled classified documents after leaving office, and while the special counsel confirmed he willfully kept and shared them, they passed on charges because he came off as too mentally unfit to prosecute. That's not a clean record. That's a legally technicality wrapped in a cognitive decline. Then there's the family business circus. Hunter Biden was convicted on tax and gun charges, but surprise, Dad swooped in and issued a full pardon right before leaving office, wiping it all clean. Meanwhile, Biden's border policies were to just leave it wide open, making it easier for groups like MS-13 to thrive while Americans dealt with the fallout. And let's not forget the DOJ. Under Biden, it was caught slow-walking investigations, silencing whistleblowers, and playing defense for the president's son. But sure, Crockett wants you to cry on MSDNC about democracy, like none of that ever happened. This isn't integrity, it's amnesia mixed with a script. Then Katie Phang starts gushing about Crockett's support for democracy, causing the whole exchange to devolve into a progressive circle jerk, which sets up the ultimate cringe. Crockett just can't hold it together. She starts crying because a cable news host played her a clip from 3 years ago and thanked her. And this is supposed to be one of the sharpest voices in Congress. This egomaniacal, emotional train wreck of a person is in charge of national leadership. This isn't strength, it's narcissistic emotional manipulation. It's performative politics wrapped in identity and sealed with a tear-soaked bow. Crockett doesn't want to be questioned, she wants to be canonized. And Katie Phang, instead of doing her job and asking anything remotely resembling a real question, decides to instead just give her the floor so she can spew propaganda while celebrating her for it. Now, I think it goes without saying that this is what happens when media and politicians collude to create theater instead of truth. No challenge, no correction, just applause for crocodile tears, while in the meantime, real Americans, working class families, small business owners, crime victims, are stuck watching our country get run by people more interested in emotional monologues than measurable results. So if this is what supporting democracy looks like, sobbing on cable news, calling Trump worse than MS-13 and refusing to back any of it with facts, maybe we need fewer supporters and more grown-ups in the room. And speaking of grown-ups, someone's gotta come get Tampon Tim Walz' daughter because she has been going off the rails.
If Jesus were alive today and in the United States, this administration would have already taken him and removed him from this country without due process, claimed he was a member of the MS-13 gang as a way to try to justify not giving him due process, as if there is any justifiable reason to not giving somebody due process. But yeah, some people don't want to talk about that. It truly is baffling how clear and laid out everything is, and there is still people standing by it. I believe in the good of people and humanity, humans, deep down at our core, we care about each other. But that's really being tested because how anyone is okay with this is terrifying to me. But yeah, if you look like me, speak up, speak out, because we might be the only ones safe from what's coming and some of the only people that are able to stop it. So yeah, it's our duty at this point.
Now let's be clear, comparing Jesus Christ, the sinless Son of God, to an alleged MS-13 member isn't a profound moral statement. It's a confused and careless analogy that trades biblical truth for political theater. This isn't about defending faith or justice. It's about hijacking sacred language to push a narrative that crumbles under even basic scrutiny. Hope Walz says if Jesus were alive today, this administration would have deported him, claimed he was MS-13. That's not moral insight. That's performance art rooted in confusion. Jesus wasn't a violent criminal. He wasn't a cartel member. He didn't even carry weapons, run drugs, or leave a trail of bodies. He was and is the Son of the living God who walked in perfect holiness, fulfilled the law, and gave his life to redeem mankind. Equating him with violent gang members to score political points isn't just a false equivalence, it's spiritual malpractice. Now, what Hope Walz is doing here is moral hijacking, invoking the name of Jesus to sanctify lawlessness. She's not defending the faith. She's using it as a costume to validate rebellion. The same Jesus who healed lepers and welcomed the outcast also told the woman caught in adultery, "Go and sin no more." He forgave, but he never enabled. He loved sinners, but he never affirmed their sin. That's a part modern progressives always edit out. Jesus offered mercy, yeah, but never at the expense of truth, never at the expense of justice. If Jesus encountered a gang member, he wouldn't throw them a press conference and claim they were being persecuted. He would look them in the eyes and say, "Repent, turn from your sin, follow me." He would offer them salvation, but he'd never endorse their crimes. And he certainly wouldn't allow them to be shielded from justice under the guise of compassion. And since we're on the topic of Democrats, let's talk about corrupt leadership for a second, because Jesus had plenty to say about that too. He didn't cozy up to the political elites of his day. He called them out. He flipped tables in the temple when religious leaders turned God's house into a den of thieves. He rebuked those who oppressed the people while parading their self-righteousness. He exposed hypocrites in high places. just like we see today in a political class that preaches inclusion while protecting chaos, that cries justice while enabling crime. Jesus didn't come to coddle the powerful or to offer a cheap grace to the unrepentant. He came to save souls, to speak truth without compromise, and to call every person, rich or poor, sinner or saint, to humble repentance. That includes gang members, that includes politicians, and yes, that includes the social justice warriors who misuse his name. So no, Jesus wouldn't be deported, but he would confront the lies, he'd call out the manipulation, and he'd expose the hypocrisy of those who use his gospel as a political prop while rejecting the very Lord they pretend to quote. So to be absolutely clear, Hope Walls isn't standing up for Jesus. She's rewriting him in her own image, and that's the real danger here, because when you remake Christ to fit your politics, you don't just lose truth, you lose salvation. Jesus isn't your mascot. He's not your activist. He's the King of Kings, the Lord of Lords, and the righteous judge of all. And he deserves better than to be dragged into a stunt defending lawlessness in his name. And speaking of hypocrisy, here come Bernie Sanders and Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, America's favorite anti-capitalist duo, descending from the clouds in a luxury private jet to lecture the peasants on fighting the oligarchy. No, this isn't satire. This actually happened. While calling for the end of corporate greed, wealth inequality, and fossil fuel dependence, these two champagne communists boarded a Bombardier Challenger jet, a plane so elite it makes most corporate CEOs look frugal. So let's break this down so you can understand. They chartered a jet that can cost up to $15,000 an hour. For reference, that's more than most working class Americans make in several months. And yet, these self-proclaimed champions of the poor decided that flying commercial, like the very people they claim to represent, just wasn't good enough for the Fight the Oligarchy tour. No, they needed wider cabins, leather seats, and a carbon footprint of a small town. Funny how these Democrat types always throw out climate change as soon as it's convenient. This is peak performative populism. They talk like revolutionaries, live like royalty, and hope you're too distracted by their speeches to notice the jet fumes. Sanders spent over $221,000 on private jets just this quarter. His 2020 campaign blew nearly $2 million the same way. Meanwhile, Ocasio-Cortez was busy scolding CEOs in 2023 for doing exactly what she is doing right now. How many private jets do these CEOs need, she asked. Apparently, the answer is at least one more for her and Bernie. Now, I think it's evident that this isn't just a contradiction, it's a rhetorical bait and switch. On stage, they speak the language of the working class struggle, of climate change. Off stage, they live like the very elites they claim to fight. That's not just tone deaf, it's cynical exploitation. They leverage outrage to build their brand, but when it comes to personal comfort, the rules they impose on everyone else suddenly don't apply. That's not leadership, that's grift wrapped in moral posturing. And let's not ignore the environmental irony here. These are the same people who want to restrict your gas stove, your pickup truck, your shower head, and your air conditioning in the name of climate change. Yet, private jets emit up to 14 times more carbon per passenger than commercial flights, according to Transport and Environment. So while burning an AOC jet set across the western United States, they're polluting the very skies they say are in existential danger. Just not enough, apparently, to fly coach. But the issue isn't just the emissions or the money, it's the moral credibility. When your entire political identity is built on fighting the ruling class, it doesn't help when you start looking indistinguishable from them. This isn't fighting the oligarchy, it's indulging in it, on tour with banners, hashtags, and fully catered hypocrisy. So the next time Bernie and AOC fire up their megaphones to tell you how greedy the system is, just remember, they're doing it from 40,000 feet, sipping on some Perrier in a reclined leather chair while you're being told to walk to work and skip steak night. This isn't a movement, it's a marketing campaign, and like most campaigns, it's powered by gaslighting and jet fuel. Now, the question isn't whether Bernie or AOC believe what they say, it's whether you still believe them. How many contradictions does it take before the sermon stops sounding sincere? How long do we applaud slogans from people who live above the rules they preach? This isn't about jets or carbon footprints. It's about credibility, about whether we're willing to keep excusing hypocrisy because it's cloaked in the right rhetoric. So ask yourself, when those who cry revolution are flying first class through the very system they claim to fight against, are they leading a movement or just cashing in on it? You tell me what you think in the comments down below. Have a terrific day. Peace.